The only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters. We're going to bring you the news and reviews, of course, of some wonderful brews. My name is Dan Baker, joined as usual by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hafner.
and of course the demented and fermented,
Wayne Baker.
Now we have traveled far and wide, near and far, close and far, however you want to phrase it. Close for me and Wayne.
From south to west.
Yes,
From
South
South
Philly
Philly
to
to
West
West
Philly.
Philly.
Not so close for Steph and Rich, of course. But we're in West Philly. We are at one of my favorite spots in the city overall. We are at Local 44, and I could not be happier to be here. Did I offend anybody by saying that?
No,
All right. Okay.
really tickled me.
Okay, all right. I seriously do love it, and I'm ashamed to admit the first time I was here was years after I moved into the city, but I am glad that I finally gotten here many times, and had probably a few too many drinks.
And this spot is, and I mentioned this to Steph earlier, this is the first place I ever had Pliny the Elder.
Yeah.
In 2013, and that was our first Beer Busters outing when we came down for Philly Beer Week that year.
We took our picture right outside the door there.
So if you go to our website and scroll back for
way back,
for 10 minutes, and you find our earliest articles, there's a picture of us right out front here from Philly Beer Week 2013. Yeah.
I was a lot thinner then, had more hair. How we've come along. But we have a full panel with us. We are more people than microphones, which is weird, and I apologize. But if we can do a little bit of a roll call to go down the line. So we have with us
Ethan Tripp from Form.
Ethan, thank you for joining us.
Sarah Fuller from the Bottle Shop.
Sarah, thank you.
Jason Stewart with I Make New Zealand.
And Jason, thank you. And last but certainly not least,
Brendan Hartranft, eighth generation Philadelphian.
oh, eighth generation. All right.
Look out.
I think I'm first generation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully my family, well, I don't know if I'll have family to get to an eighth generation along the way, but congrats on the heritage.
Maybe you want to stem that bloodline right now? Last episode?
Maybe.
Fair enough.
The night
that.
is young, my
That's
friends.
true.
The night is
Fortunately
young.
for us, we don't sell any beers that are going to make you want to kill yourself.
Okay,
So,
well, that's good.
curated selection. So you're going to have to go to somewhere else.
Oh, man, I can
That
already
should
tell.
be your motto. We don't sell any beers that make you want to kill yourself.
What makes you think it's not?
Oh, okay. Is that on your business card?
If not, it should be.
Yeah, it should.
I can already tell this is going to be an interesting and a
Yes,
fun
it
night.
is. Hey, let's ask for some money.
I was going to say, we have to, of course, try to pay some bills first. So we, of course, want to thank Audible for their continuing support. Remember, you can go to audibletrial.com/beerbusters. Sign up for that coveted free, my favorite F word account. Your own Audible. You get to keep a book, download, listen to, and keep your own book. It's a free 30-day trial. And you could listen to books such as The United States of Beer, A Freewheeling History of the All-American Drink. I like history and I like beer. Why not mix the two of them? So that's audibletrial.com/beerbusters.
Yes, and another great way that you can support the podcast is to go to patreon.com/beerbusters and sign up to become a patron and throw us a couple bucks each time we release a podcast episode. And in exchange, you will get really cool behind-the-scenes perks, like you can get your name read on the podcast after the Happy Fun Time game. You can get your name and picture on our website, and you get bonus content, including our new bonus segment we're calling Last Call that we record at the end of every podcast episode that only our patrons get to hear. So to check all that out, go to patreon.com/beerbusters.
Of course. And there will be plenty more along the way. Lots of cool things in the work with Patreon. So I'm excited to see what we have coming down the road for that. Stay tuned. But I would like to get into some news. So it's been a while since we did the news because this is the first episode that we've done in a long time where, come on, seriously now?
So do you get for forgetting your iPad?
Well, I know. The soundboard app isn't working on here, so I have to go through, because it's on autoplay. Figure I would realize that sooner or later. It's the first episode in a while we've gotten to do news because this is the first one that's coming out in a reasonable amount of time.
This
so
is
I feel
true.
weird actually
Sorry.
doing news. And no, that's all right.
my fault.
It was kinda
Steph
refreshing.
and Rich had to go wander the earth for a month.
Yeah, some 6,500-mile trip. Yeah, but at least he brought back some goodies.
And you'll be able to read about some of that at beerbusterspodcast.com.
What's that link again?
That is beerbusterspodcast.com.
So a lot has happened. One of the things that we posted on our social media along the way was that the Brewers Association has come out with their own little independent craft seal for craft breweries to be certified that they are locally owned and craft and not being bought up by some of the bigger conglomerates. And that came out, I think, at the end of June. Yeah, since its release on June 27, the Brewers Association new independent craft brewer seal is garnering a great deal of attention, and as the association, they are excited to confirm that many in the beer community have taken immediate steps to sign the license agreement and obtain the art. And now more than 1,250 brewing companies and counting, which account for more than 1,500 brewing locations, have signed on to the agreement, which is about 50% of the U.S. craft brewer volume.
I thought about 25% of the people signed on for it.
That's
at
what I
this
had
point.
seen, too. Like, that's what the headline had said, but then the press release from the Brewers Association says 50, which confuses me.
Fact checking.
Somewhere between the two.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good idea. I think this was obviously spurred by the recent Wicked Weed acquisition.
Well, yeah. Well, them and many others.
And many others, but that was like the most recent headline that I think sort of spurred that kind of action. And it's kind of like a certified organic kind of seal. You know, it guarantees, you know, a certain transparency.
I was waiting for a word.
I was, yeah. Mr. Crossword Puzzle over there. Transparency.
It's farcical. It's completely farcical because these beers are going to be carried by very unindependent businesses. You know, I mean, you know, Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. You know, so, you know, it's one step towards the nullification of anything that's independent. You know, it's a complete mitigation of any responsibility for your own business because you get to have this really cool, you know, ostensibly, you know, your buddy's band sticker on the bottom of your skateboard. You know, and it really is as nebulous as that. You know, I think that, you know, the acquisition, you know, it's not an acquisition. I love that they say acquisition. Like Wicked Weed had no hand in selling themselves to Budweiser. Like Budweiser, you know, and like I have a tour at the Newark facility at Budweiser on August 3rd. I am so excited to see a brewery that's that technologically advanced. I want to see that many good ingredients and that much of a dedication to the craft of what goes into their bottle. Do you know how hard it is to make a beer taste like nothing?
Oh, yeah. It's incredibly difficult.
And, yeah, exactly. So it's like
it's advanced chemistry.
This whole thing is like, you know, like, hey, we're back in it. And it's like, well, you know what, man? Anyone that bears that, anyone that flies under that sigil in our very Game of Thrones times, I'm gonna be a lot more suspect of, you know, because it's like, you know, there really is. It's like trudge forward, man. Like, you know, it's such a shame that after such a defeating loss of reason that we've forgotten the best thing that came out of it. You know, nonetheless, she persisted, you know, and that's what we should be really like evoking right now instead of like this whole like party jumping. You know, it's just, I don't know. Good for the craft brewers, good for the people that want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, like, don't tell me that means anything. You know, because now you're not really giving me the credit, and that's where I start to grow a set of fangs.
Makes sense.
It's, you know, it's a very kind of gives you like a nice warm and fuzzy feeling when you see it on a label. But again, if everyone that's a Brewers Association member does this, then it doesn't really mean anything. And it's also not necessarily an indicator for quality whatsoever. Like, you could have this, and it's still like a shitty beer at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter. And, you know, like Brendan was touching on, like a lot of these guys, you know, like, cool, you're independently owned, but you're still working with an Anheuser-Busch wholesaler, a Miller wholesaler, a Coors wholesaler. Those guys are keeping the lights on. You're still using their infrastructure at the end of the day to get your brand to market. So where does that leave you? You know, it's just a label. You know, I don't think it really is going to necessarily translate to new sales or anything like that, or really have any kind of lasting impact whatsoever. You know, if people were that, I think very few people really care that much in the larger scheme of things. You know, anyone that's really worrying about it is going to do their own homework and look into it, but your average grocery store consumer doesn't give two shits.
Oh, that's very
Either way.
true. That's very true.
You know?
That's sort of the gap, right? I mean, there's people who really care about all of this stuff and know because it's their business to know. And then there's consumers who, right now at least, don't care. It would be interesting if there was more of an educational effort to get those people to look a little closer. You know, when you go to the grocery store, don't just grab whatever the flashiest label is. Do some research. Find out who the breweries are in your neighborhood and start reaching out to them, start drinking their products.
The real drag, it's like anything with labels, it's purely predatory. You know, that is someone that's slicing you up as a consumer and that's saying, like, I know what they want. I'm going to give them this, and that's just going to make them feel this way. And, to a degree, I suppose that's true. But at the same time, it's like, that's not the movement. That's not the solidarity. That's not the connective tissue that we all signed on for.
Sure.
When you start being sliced up like that, like ahead of time, and just kind of sent out to market like that, it makes me want to just be like, you know what? I'll grab a 30-pack of Bud. Because, they're not slicing me up. They're just making their thing. It's polarizing. It's polarizing.
It starts stoking your antis.
Bam. Punk's not dead. It just deserves to die.
Well, then obviously this is like a conversation that's been going on in the beer world for a long time now. Big beer versus independent beer, and with AB InBev in particular buying up a whole bunch of craft breweries, and there's so many opinions. And I think on this show we've sort of wavered back and forth because I drink Goose Island beer.
Well,
I love Goose Island.
When we were in Vegas, how many times did we drink at the Goose Island thing
we
at the
sat
hotel?
at the bar like every night. And,
Yeah.
I'll drink a good beer if it's a good beer. I don't care. You know what I mean? If it's a good beer, it's worth drinking.
Goose Island IPA, man.
Yeah, I
It's
love
a really
Sophie.
solid
It's
beer.
like one of my go-to beers. I love that beer.
I want to nitpick about the logo for this seal. Because I thought I was looking
really down and dirty.
Well, no, I was looking at it earlier because I guess 0 Day signed up for it. Theo posted a thing on their Instagram about it, and the bottle's upside down on it, and I don't really understand why, and it kind of bothers me because it's the only thing. Everything else, the bottle's always up, and I guess like you can stand out this way, but it's going against the grain in a way that makes me kind of uncomfortable to look at, and I don't know if that's going to subconsciously affect what I buy or not.
Maybe it's an evocation of the military call for help that you're in distress when the American flag is put upside down.
That's a good way to look at it.
That's a deep cut right there.
Or the deep cut of just pouring some beer from the homies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
There's
that could be
there's
good
that
too.
There's
Yeah.
that too.
I kind of love both.
Yeah. I do feel though, and like there is, I think, an issue though if there is a brewery that presents itself as being independent or presents itself as being something that it's not, and I do think there has to be like some sort of level of transparency there. Like you can't to act like you're a mom and pop business when you're really not. I think it's just a dishonesty to it. But at the end of the day, I also agree that like if a good beer is a good beer, you should drink that beer regardless of who makes it.
I mean,
to an extent.
Why not just have 150 different bottle logos and stuff like that for whatever you do? Like, are you supporting enough charities? Do you give enough of your percentage? Then you get another label.
That sounds like a Pokemon card.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta have them all.
Yeah, and then by the end of the day, like every single craft beer label just looks like a Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah, just about.
And
I just vetted the biggest nerd in the room, by the
Or it
way.
looked like the back of a college student's car, like just covered in bumper stickers.
Oh yeah.
when it comes down to it, though, the people that are going to care enough to look at for the independent logo on it are the people that are already doing their research and are already choosing the craft breweries that they want to drink from. And so okay, they're trying something, fine, whatever, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
No, not
personally.
really.
I don't.
No, it's just making a lot of people change the way
In my
they're
opinion.
packaging at this point to fit a logo on there.
Tangent, though, I visited the Budweiser brewery
I was gonna
in
bring it
St.
up.
Louis.
I was going to ask if I was allowed
about
to
a
bring it
month
up.
ago. We actually paid and did the Brewmaster tour, which is a 3-hour tour of the facility. A 3-hour tour.
Someone had
And
to do
I was utterly impressed.
Was the minnow
Oh my
lost?
gosh.
It
It's-
was. I will never forget the moment I walked into their fermentation cellar and like saw those
No,
tanks. It's unlike anything else I've ever seen in my life. It's unreal.
Now, I actually have a question because I've been to a lot of small breweries. I've never been to a large brewery on that sort of scale. I think the biggest brewery I've probably ever been to is Trogs and done like a tour. Is it sort of like more of like a assembly line manufacturing type of environment?
It's sheer opulence.
Yeah, okay.
Those fucking Clydesdales live better than I do.
I got to pet one of the Clydesdales, and the Dalmatian was there. My favorite part of the tour were the animals, but no. Well, there everything is in a different building.
Right.
Like you have the lagering building, you have the brew house, you have the bottling building, you have the canning building, and you don't see a lot of people though because everything is automated.
Right.
You know, it's all pushing buttons, but it just the sheer size of the place is just impressive, and it's gorgeous. These brick buildings, built in the 1800s, and I don't know.
It's amazing what a shit ton of money can do.
I know. You're absolutely right. But he built that. I mean, it's
Now,
not
with
like
that-
he,
With all that said, they are making a product that is superior. They lend out their if you talk to anybody that's on their brewing science team, it's very much like an open phone call kind of thing, where if somebody from, Sierra works with Budweiser all the time. Now, they have the geographical advantage because they're right up the way from them, but, if you talk to a Budweiser, person, man, woman, or whatever, someone that's, a tradesperson, and you have a question for them in terms of like brewing science, they're going to help you. Now, where Budweiser, where it's polarizing, talk to their sales force, they do want 100% of the market. But you know what? So does everybody else. What I really like about Budweiser is that, everybody that rails against them. And it's like, well, dude, look in your garage. How much stuff do you have from China? Like, how much stuff do you have that's like from literally the only cool thing that you do is beer, and most people don't think about that. And it's like, it's great that you're all in the lather about the one thing that you're really into, but motherfucker, you better walk it like you talk it. Like, if you're going to start like talking some shit, then I'm going to do a thorough inventory of your entire life. It's like, get off the gas grid. Like, if that's your bag, then get off the grid, mofo, because you can't take the same shit on two toilets. It's impossible.
So many candidates for episode titles right there. I'm just sorry.
But I mean, it's the truth. It's like, so they're going to do what they do. We can either all like get worked up about that, or we can get really excited about Ethan Tripp's beers. I prefer the latter.
I do have to say, probably the coolest part of the tour, the people on the tour, got to taste Budweiser before it's watered down.
Oh, yeah?
Which is like a 7.2%. It tasted like it was like a Belgian beer. It was quite sweet and fruity, and it was a really good beer. And then they water it down to get it down to the 4% that Budweiser is. But that was sort of a neat experience.
That's cool.
I don't know if I was just being naive in the process, but I didn't realize that the actual beer itself, I didn't.
Yeah, they innovated the watering back thing,
yeah.
And they did a lot of work on it. It's actually pretty impressive. There's a great Brew Your Own article about it. I want to say it's like you can go up to 40% or something like that before you start getting over-esterification or something. There's a bunch of science, but
well, who does that too is our man at Dodola, Chris Hurdley.
Yeah.
And he's like when my beer comes in strong, I just add water. Yeah. It's a universal solvent. Yeah. And it's like, and that that's science.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how the water gets in there, actually.
That's true.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how the water gets in me either.
Cool. I have a couple other stories I wanted to touch on. This one, I don't know how I feel about it, and I think I know how I'm going to lean towards it. But there's a Czech Republic-based brewery called Arosa. They have launched a, quote, beer for her, which is a premium lifestyle beer, which aptly comes in a totally non-generic, non-stereotypical pink marble bottle, because apparently women like shiny pink things. You are very vehemently shaking your head over there, and I agree. Mina Smirova, who is the brand's founder, claims that the beer is a representation of a woman's strength and a girl's tenderness. And it just keeps going like this. Like, the bottle looks interesting. Like, I could see people getting the bottle like as a collector's thing on its own, but the message that's behind it is totally way off base at this point. And they posted a picture of it on their own Instagram, and it got like 3 likes out of all the followers that they have. But in such a polarizing time, it's like you said earlier, the Game of Thrones style. Yeah, I know I can't like pass it around, but it's like a pink marble bottle.
Yeah, we need like a screen for the in-house audience.
That's the bottle there.
Oh, you are saying
like
marble.
Chocolate wine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it looks like it would be a chocolate wine bottle, pretty much. And of course, we'll get a picture up on the website of it with the episode.
If you remind me to, we will.
Well, now that it's recorded, I will.
It's like if Ivanka Trump had a beer.
Yes, that is perfect.
It would come with
That
matching
should
heels.
Totally be a thing.
Yeah. They apparently never intended to take part in any sort of sexism, feminism talks or arguments or anything like that. But, I mean, you have to know, in a time like this where everybody's so divided on everything, that almost anything you do is going to be looked at under a microscope, and there will be some huge lash.
Did you mention what style of beer it was?
I didn't.
It's an Imperial Stout.
It should be.
Coffee. Yeah. Okay.
Chili peppers.
With chili peppers. So it's a beer for Steph.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I don't understand if you're already calling it a beer for women, how you don't think that you're not trying to create like a arty air around it.
Yeah, it's like they just wanted the press from this, which I get. It gets your name out there. I'd never heard of them before this, but you can have bad press. Like that old adage is not true. Some press is bad press.
It's like when they didn't they used to advertise like Diet Dr. Pepper, or there was a Dr. Pepper that was supposed to be like for women for a little while. It just doesn't make any sense. Like,
I thought we've gotten past this.
So did I.
Yeah. Well, apparently not.
In the Czech Republic we haven't.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to hit on is only because we've talked about it every year since it has come into existence.
Woot Stout.
Yes, Woot Stout is back.
Back again.
And I have to prove my age to
Hey,
Stone
real
again.
quick high five for us spending no time on such a tawdry subject as beer for women.
Yeah, I figured.
Because to give it
I don't
more,
even want to waste.
boom.
No,
But boom,
No more gas.
Yeah, I'd rather spend more time on the first article,
Yeah.
and then this will be the quick mention.
And then Woot
that
Stout.
it's back in its fourth iteration. So 4 years since the
who's
otherworldly stout they called burst out of our collective proverbial chests. So it is, of course, Drew Curtis, Will Wheaton, if you will, and Greg Cook, Stone Farking Woot Stout. Apparently, it is national distribution except for Louisiana and West Virginia. I don't know what those two states did to Stone, but apparently they are not happy. But it's back. I mean, it's going to be exactly probably what it was before, but, maybe...
Has the recipe changed at all?
It doesn't look like it has, and I don't mean to say it's going to be the same thing as in, like, we've all had it before, but
Right.
it's the same vibe out of it, the same comic art on there, and it's still going to support the Hero Initiative, which is a charity that provides retirement funds for Golden Age comic book artists.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, of course, the nerd in me definitely wants to
And
find
we
this.
will have to, in time honored tradition, have some on the show
Of course.
sooner than later.
We just got to find it.
Is this the fourth year? Fourth?
It released in the city already.
Yeah. I know the
Yeah.
release date was like the beginning of July. I just got to get out and find it pretty much. Humble brag is I haven't had to buy beer in a long time. Well, of course, we'll track a bottle down. We'll have it on the show,
we will,
of course.
definitely.
But that takes us to a lot of the many things that we have at hand for the evening now that we're out of the news. So we are at Local 44, and we have a full panel, and we already have lots of vivid conversations, a lot of things. There's beers being poured at the end of the bar, and there's... I don't know where to start with Local 44 because, like I've already said, it's one of my favorite places in the city, and I'm happy to finally be recording here. I mean, we were here for that Upland release, Wayne, which was really cool. It was a nice event for Beer Week. Mm-hmm. I mean, the food here is phenomenal, and what I like is not only is the food here, but of course you have the great beers, but you also have the collaborations with local breweries too. Because when I was here, I got something from Yards, and I don't really remember what it was. But
we do.
At least
that could have either been the Heavy Manners or the
that's
Bitter
what it was.
Landlord. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, Heavy Manners, and that was delicious. And I like that it was only for Local 44, right?
No, we did that. I mean, that's every release that we do is across across our tiny little family of canoes. Not
canoes.
quite an armada,
Somebody needs
but
to be
more-
writing these down. Family of
I
Canoe.
know.
Yeah, more of
Episode
just
120,
a
Family of
swift
Canoe.
little get along gang. No, it's really it's nice. Local was about local was us. Was the three of us kind of right out of the gate? Memphis had opened up, and we saw the impact of what a place could do with a neighborhood, with a place that had a little bit of hunger to it, and we were able to dial it in. And Memphis was very like, Memphis Taproom was very much like a first album. You have your whole life to write your first album, and the biggest pressure's on your sophomore release. And so instead of waiting, we just kind of did it, and BK and I had worked at Notting Head for a long time, and we had a lot of the same sensibilities. And Lee's so fantastic at what she brings to the table, and so it was just kind of like, well, let's just in the parlance of Batman with Mike Keaton, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
So with Local 44, which came first, the restaurant or the bottle? I'm guessing the restaurant and bar.
Restaurant
and then
came
bottle
first,
shop.
and then the bottle shop was just such a blessing for us because our landlord, who's a really nice, like just the nicest fella, and really believes in us, was like, hey, would you like to expand your restaurant, and it was like, and at that point in time, I'd really gotten to, we had gotten to really realize like what a slim profit margin there was in restaurants. And it was like, well, why are we going to double our headaches? And so why don't we just do a retail business? And I had worked at the Foodery and it was the original Foodery. Not to take any wind out of the sails of the current Foodery with Jack running it, but it was with Adrian Palas and Ashim at 10th and Pine. And I had moved in that area right after high school. And I lived at 13th and Pine, and it was like, it was the real 13th and Pine. Like every single night it like rained prostitutes. And I worked at Gravity Brewing Company in the morning, and I worked in the Foodery at night. And it was such a great experience to hand sell beer. And I had missed it. I had missed it a lot. And, after Memphis and here, it seemed like less hand selling in the bar atmosphere because everybody was doing it. It was a dime a dozen. We had people at the forefront like Copa and Monk's Cafe, and then Fergie's and Standard Tap and South Philly Tap Room, and then we went in the fray, and it just got really, I don't want to say saturated, but it just got a bit common.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, this is a really nice delineation, right? And we could be next door, and we could be with this beautiful space that Lee designed. And just talk about knocking it out of the park. And we have a space that can hold 2,000 beers, and we rarely crest above 420, which is not. We rarely crest above 421. I don't want to be the obvious cargo shorted beer person that says 420. But it really is about conviction, and it's about like, hey, this is what we want to carry. These are our friends. These are our relationships, or this is something that our like Sarah believes in a lot of beers that I don't believe in. But I don't. That's not my job. It's not my job to believe in those beers.
I believe in Sarah's beers.
I believe in Sarah's beers too. Well, it's like the same thing. I walk in, I'm like, oh, okay, and it's like that's cool. All right. And what I really like is the conviction, is the curation, is the Sarah can speak to it more than I can. For me, it was just, or for us, it was really just more about an idea where everyone can own a piece of it, and not such a namby-pamby co-op, because that's always such a weak thing that almost always winds up being like run with this very draconian hand of just like self-righteousness, which just leaves the worst taste in your mouth. But we really wanted to do something. It was like, okay, you know what, go for it, and if that's what you want to do. And Sarah can speak to it more than I can. To me, for us, it was just an idea, but Sarah's done such a great job of honing it in.
Well, not just me, like past managers, Murph and Kevin both. I think from when it first started, the beers that were out and kind of the bottle shop idea wasn't fully there. It was just delis kind of in Philly. I think throughout the almost 5 years going on.
Coming on it, yeah.
Yeah. I think the beer industry itself has sort of made its place for the slots that we carry those beers. I think the amount of beer you have to choose from all the distributors has just increased as well. And I think that's why a spot like us is like so welcomed, and we're always thanked for our selection, because we are kind of curating this vast portfolio that the city's actually given. And I think that's where it comes into play, of what we're choosing.
That's without a doubt. I can remember being younger when I couldn't buy beer and I had to buy records, and that felt like beer.
Yeah.
And you'd go to 3rd Street Jazz, and we would take. I remember I got off the L, and I ran into my dad, and my dad was just walking down the street with like his necktie loosened, and he was eating a kibasi sandwich, and it felt like watching the weirdest thing that I've still never seen. It would have been made more sense to me if he told me that he used to be in the circus and could juggle seals. But just seeing him on his own, and I remember we ran into each other and we just didn't know what to say, and we didn't really say anything. And then I went into 3rd Street Jazz and I bought some Dream Syndicate records, or Cringer records.
Band.
Yeah, Red Band. That would have been amazing, right? Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I would love to lie on air and say that's what it wasn't, right? But it's like one of those things where, you start to realize like what you're made of, what your pieces are made of, and what you have to kind of splay out there for people and kind of offer that. And I think that's really what curation is.
I tell people we're like a record store all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's how music, or that's how beer and music kind of all go together, and it's very much. I mean, it comes down to the labels. Do you know the B-side? Do you really know the story behind that beer? And
then if they don't, then you share it, and it's not heavy-handed, and it's not like you're not being like, oh, well, you don't know who's on that album. What a hayseed.
No, you're like,
my God.
Have you heard
like,
this yet?
You haven't heard it. Holy moly.
Drink
like,
it.
let's help you out.
You guys cover all the bases so well, too. I mean, anything you want to get into here is here, whether it's local, whether it's European stuff. I mean,
honestly, I've gotten so curmudgeonly. I would just have Sierra Nevada. I get that all. Don't say you guys cover so much.
To do something really nerdy, I was reading Michael Jackson's Great Beers of Belgium, and I was reading it home, and I'm getting thirsty for beer, and I'm very fortunate that I could walk 2 blocks, actually purchase one of the beers from the chapter I was reading, and sit here and drink it and continue reading about. I mean, that's
at a really good price.
Love it.
I mean, there's not a lot of places you can do that.
No, I agree. I mean, it really is. It's one of those things where at the end of the day, like if we could hang our hat on, if I could force us to hang our hat on anything, because it's me and BK and it's Lee and it's Justin and it's Sarah, it's Ryan who's managing Clarkville, Morgan that's managing Trains Labs. If I could get us all to agree on one thing, it would be here. I mean, hands down. I mean, you always hang your hat at your local. There's a reason that it says the sign says West Philly, not University City.
I support that.
Yeah, me too.
And this place really does embody. I hadn't ventured into West Philly for the longest time while I lived here. I mean, I've been in the city for 12 years, and I think my first trip into West Philly might have been after I'd been here 7 years, 8 years. And this embodies what I know and love about West Philly. I mean, it's like this fits in so well out here. And I've got friends that live out here, and every time we say, we're going to Local 44, it's like, oh my God, it's such a great place. And everybody loves it. Like you've carved such a nice little corner for yourselves with this spot and with the ambiance that you have here.
It's about. I think it's at the end of the day. It's about putting on the right dress for the occasion. It's one of those things. We've all put on goofy outfits, and we've been to parties, and we felt like total goofballs and outcasts. And this was one of those occasions where we really did pick out the right dress for the right party.
Yeah.
We never took it off. And so, I would love
Not
to...
even to wash it? Like once in a while?
No, never. Listen, we aren't... never to wash it.
Wash the magic right off.
No, it's just, and
I don't clean things in West Philly.
Yeah. I would like to sit here and I would like to say, and being rained on with oh my God, it's so great. And I agree. I mean, I love it. I'm like Lenny from Vice and Men if I pet it too hard.
Yeah.
But, a lot of it has to do with that we never took it off.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes, the jeans the second or third day around, they start to feel so good that you never want to wash them. And we just kind of decided to do that. And then it developed into something that it wasn't always just ours anymore. And we had to let it be other people's. And we really liked what they did with it. And we also really liked how we felt when we didn't like what they did with it. And it became like this kind of thing where you could really look at it from afar and kind of have that worm's eye view, and see it and kind of poke your head out every once in a while. I'm like, I don't fucking like that. And then you change it or you collaborate on it. You say that. I mean, business is tough and you need a lot more than just your own brain, or our 3 brains, which, is like a hydra. So you have to get together. You have to bring in other people. You have to chop it up, and it's like a recipe. And it's really, we just feel like we had this great coalescence here that is every single day. I just get up and I'm not even being not even being a Pollyanna about it. I get up every day. I'm just my God, how fortunate are we to be able to do that in our industry?
I'm going to do something a little out of the norm, if that's all right with you. Right. But I've had this empty glass sitting in front of me for a while, and I'm really thirsty. So I know it's not technically tasting segment time yet, but cool. Could we maybe pop open a I know we're celebrating Belgium today, so...
It's true, yeah, we haven't mentioned that yet.
No, we have not.
Yeah.
And I know there's a few people
lowlands.
at the bar that really appreciate Belgian beer, and I thought maybe we could steer the
Absolutely.
conversation.
Is that all of us? Because I feel like that's all of us.
Oh, my God. This is the beer that
Yes!
Sarah and I were talking about earlier.
Yeah, she was talking about how underappreciated it is.
This
I can't
beer is-
wait to try it.
I tell you, man, everyone wants to talk about, everyone. I used to work at a brew pub called Notting Head, and the brewer, Brandon Greenwood, had a degree in malting and distilling from Heriot-Watt, which is basically the Harvard of brewing science. And we opened up in 1999, and he opened up with a beer, and it was a 40 shilling ale, and it was just called Session Ale. And everybody asked what a session was. Every single guest we had asked what a session was. And, I was really lucky enough to be part of what was at the vanguard of that. And now it seems to be all the rage, but if you really track it from like a history perspective, DuPont was on top of it. Avril came out right when Brasserie de la Seine started releasing their stuff. So the biggest or the most well-known Belgian brewery also has given us, the next path. And this really was before saisons were all the rage. I mean, this is like I remember having Avril in Ethan. What do you think? 2006?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe 2000. I'd say between 2006 and 2008, and everyone's like what? Like they're just okay. I get DuPont. We know Miel. We know Foray. We know Avec les Bambous. But
it's still one I feel like you don't see very often at all.
Well, no, you don't,
Yeah.
and that's the bummer. And isn't that always the case? Like for the people that create something, it never lasts. The first one in is never the benchmark. It never happens like that.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, it's like the Session IPA, which is the greatest ruse of all time. It's like, hey, Session IPA. You don't really mean just a very hoppy pale ale, do you? But no one. I mean, it's great that Sierra Nevada's come as long as it has, but they broke it. They broke every, as far as I'm concerned, outside of maybe wild ales, they broke most American beer styles, or what the perception of what American beer business could be.
Sure.
And same thing with DuPont. Like Avril is like this beer that like comes out every year, and they get so excited about it. And it's like it's the most like just like milquetoast occasion for us here. And here we are, like so erudite in beer, knowing everything, and this thing comes out that we pay no attention to. So cheers to Avril.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm in. This I really enjoy this beer. It's light, nice and light and crisp, and it's what I needed on a 95-degree day with 1,000,000% humidity.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a shame that, like you said, like when this comes out, it's sort of not a huge deal as much maybe as it should be. Like I feel like there's not enough.
Dude, if this was made in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
people would go out of their minds.
Yeah. And
wait in line for it.
Yeah,
You said that, I didn't.
around the block.
I'm allowed to because I have waited in line in Brooklyn. So
Yeah.
It makes one of us.
But it's nice to appreciate a beer that isn't like an event beer, that isn't like some big crazy, either like a stunt beer or this huge,
I mean, isn't the purpose of beer is to drink it and enjoy it?
Exactly. And not
gush
covet
over
it
all
and hunt it
everything
down
else.
and then put it on a mantelpiece and never open it. And so
Yeah.
I thought it was to flip it on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Oh, yes.
Or to flip
yes.
it on
In
Facebook.
search
That's true,
of.
too, yeah.
In search of.
But I just love this beer style so much because you can enjoy it with anything. This is the beer that will pair with pretty much any food out there. This is what I bring to Thanksgiving. Saison DuPont is usually my go-to when I'm going to Thanksgiving dinner. Those great farmhouse saisons, the Beer de Gardes, they're just wonderful, wonderful styles.
Yeah, I think
You
this
know
is
whose beers taste a lot like this? Ethan Tripp's.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
but I think this beer is
the
also
base
like
beer-
as
the
complex.
Your base beer is a lot like this, right?
Yeah, it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, the classic beers of the Hainaut region are huge inspiration for us. Belgian French farmhouse ales. So many different types, so many great little breweries that have been just killing it for so long. And I feel like they're recognized in the beer books, but your average drinker just isn't turned on to them yet. And they're some of the finest beers in the world. And I think it's coming. I'm seeing more and more talk about, places like Blogy and Turrier and things like that online. And that's great. And I think part of that is owed to the Americans that have been inspired by those styles, and they're putting them out in places like Brooklyn and other places. And people are starting to dig for those deep cuts, like you were saying. It's like, hey, what is a farmhouse ale? Well, if you look it up, you're going to find some of those classics. And it seems like people are getting into it, which is great.
Yeah, and I think some of those people probably never would have heard of these breweries if they didn't collaborate with an American counterpart to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a lot of these, kind of French producers that have been doing this for a while now, like no one would know who they were. And just these kinds of beers are amazing because they can be as simple or as complex as you want them to be.
Yeah,
this is something you can just sit back and kick back 6 of these at dinner or barbecue or something like that. But if you really want to get into it and really think about it, it's got all of these just amazing nuances to it. So it's just kind of this two-faced kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Easy drinking complexity.
Easy drinking, and it's but if you really think about it, it does have all these very subtle aspects to it. It doesn't hit you over the head or anything like that, but it's not what it was designed to do at all. So it's something that's, I think, really approachable for people that are getting into the style. But if you really get people to start taking a second to think about what they're drinking, they really start to notice all these subtle things while still being not turned off by it if they're used to drinking mass-produced wit beer or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about, so is there room at the table just for a moment to discuss the kind of the issue of Jason made an amazing point, where he said hey, a lot of these beers would not be in our kind of in our wheelhouse if it weren't for American breweries kind of bringing them up, right? But it reminds me of the whole thing of it's like people watching a Scorsese movie and being like, oh, where he got this from? This very subtle, and it's like, well, that's got to feel shitty for that person that made that first movie.
Sure,
it's it's the whole thing. I mean, so it's this whole thing where you're happy that everybody got here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something a little backhanded.
Well,
about it.
and one of the difficult things for those producers is that now they're being sort of retroactively judged on the standards of their American followers. So if you want to depress yourself completely, look up Turrier's Untapped ratings.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're dismal.
And that's what I
find
mean.
Untapped depressing,
which is fucking ridiculous. When all the
Blogy,
ratings
same
look-
thing.
Yeah,
Dismal.
yeah, dismal. Darbeast, that beer is
Yeah.
that
And then
beer
the
is
ratings,
so good.
there's not enough marshmallows in here.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, it's this thing. It's it's this whole thing where there's this inspiration, and we latch on to it like
Sure.
a dog, and we just can't let it go. But it's well, these poor people that brought it to us. It's there's something that's it's again. I mean, I think that there's so much room for a real, true revivalist culture. A revivalism or a revivalist. Or a provocateur of just hey, we should be doing this.
Yeah.
As opposed to just be hey, this is me, this is what I was inspired by, you should love this. Maybe it should be a person that's saying hey, we should be doing all of this.
Sure.
And really a real renaissance, not just a convenient renaissance.
I think the people from the States that I find the most inspiring are the people who are taking inspiration, but they're definitely making their own beers. And they're not trying to say, this is an absolute classic in this style, check your BJCP guidelines, it's spot on. Because the BJCP is wrong on so many of those styles. Yeah. You look at England, it's a travesty. So you take people like Jester King, for instance. I mean, they're making hill country beer. Now, you could call it a farmhouse ale, you could say they're inspired by Saison, but they're not trying to tell anyone what those beers are supposed to taste like. And if you actually spend some time with those people and see what they drink, they're drinking all the classics, and they appreciate, their Blogy and their Turrier and their Duranka. When the first time I went there, I looked in their cooler, and they had Duranka Triple X Bitter. And it was one of those moments where we're like, oh, you have that? And they're like, oh.
Why wouldn't we have that?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's like Ray Davies said, when he was asked why, when the Kinks got popular, they said, well, what do you think about your pop music? And Ray Davies said, like, it's pop because it's popular now. Like, we're not. This doesn't define what pop music is. We're going to be changing in like 4 seconds, and we're just going to follow that tide. Not to say that Chester King is like following a trend, and I think that Chester King is incredibly, like their beer is their beer.
Absolutely.
It's like they're like I think a good brewery should be like a character actor. Like not many places you can go for that sort of thing.
Sure.
And that's what Chris Walken says about him. He's like, hey man, I'm not the best actor. But if you want Chris Walken, you kind of got to come to Chris Walken.
Yeah. And another great inspiration from the U.S. is Saint Somewhere. That's another guy who took an inspiration but is walking his own path. And, there's
who made a lot of bad beer.
Yeah, sure.
But like unapologetically, like, hey,
And now there's people who are following him and taking inspiration from him, but I don't think it's inspiration to make beers like Saint Somewhere. It's to make beers with that same ethos of I'm going to be me, I'm going to make what I like, my flavor profiles, and I'm not going to worry about what category it fits in or what the ratings on Untapped are. It's just not important.
The fact that we're having this conversation in Philadelphia is so great.
Yeah.
It's very Rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I do think, though, like, as the market becomes more and more crowded with breweries, it does become a little more difficult for a new brewery to open up and say, I'm going to do my own thing and make the beers that I want to make and have my own character, because, like, it gets harder and harder to get people through the door, and you have to have an IPA on top. You have to have...
Case in point with that is last episode, Ethan...
Exactly, that's exactly what I was just thinking
Ethan
of.
Buckman at Stickman, where he started off with open fermentation and beers out of a funk, and they didn't sell, and then he starts doing the IPAs that do sell while trying to get people into his style of beer.
And when you had mentioned that, you thought that these styles were about like starting to become more and more popular, I was thinking we know another Ethan that would be very happy to hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many. Everybody and their mom is opening a brewery now that it's kind of hard, one, to find one that has their own voice, like you were saying, and two, one that has their own voice and can survive from a business standpoint in the current marketplace.
Yeah.
Well, then, so I guess that kind of leads into what you're doing, Ethan, with your brewery. Now, are you open yet?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so you have open, and it's... Am I Fermentery Form?
Yes.
Where in the local craft beer scene do you see yourself fitting in? And do you have your own spin to put on stuff like that?
Sure. Well, we joke that we're the Phantom of Philadelphia.
I love it.
Give yourself way more credit than that. Danny has the most inconsistent beers.
He went through a bad spell, but I think he's back, man. I think they figured it out.
I bought a Phantom in Isegum, and I got it, and it was terrible. And it was like one of his random saisons. And then I was like, what did I pay for this? And so I was expecting, because even in the Netherlands and Belgium, his beers are expensive.
Yeah.
And so his beers are typically like, €18. And I was in this.
That's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. What did I pay for this? Somebody goes, €6. I said, the stone fruit is delightful.
Danny's very eccentric, but he's an amazing brewer, and he goes with his ideas and inspiration and whim in a way that I think a lot of people here could be inspired by. I mean, it's as unique as it gets, and there's also a painterly approach where it's every iteration of a beer doesn't have to exactly the same profile. It's very farmhousey, if you want to use that word.
If I could foreshadow for a second, we may get a taste of that character in today's game.
Very nice.
I always thought they were kind of like the really beautiful but really crazy ex-girlfriend or boyfriend that you had, where you had some really, really high highs, but they would also burn your fucking house down as well sometimes, But
and those are the most memorable.
But you still kept coming back for some reason.
I mean, variety, the spice
Taste
of life.
A little bit of taste of the cray.
Yeah.
Well, while we're sitting here, and we might not taste it, but the brewery that never gets any mention in the same sentence as Phantom, Vapure.
Oh, I tell people that all the time.
Oh my God. The thing that I really hate it's the masculine that's brought up all the time. And that's just, it happens to be the beers that we're talking about. Yeah, it's his. I wish that we were talking about Earthol or New Belgium. Kim Jordan is just off the charts smart. But Vapeur is this brewery. It's a steam-powered brewery. Yeah. And, it's and he's like, he doesn't clean his brewery because it's like, oh, they didn't clean their brewery then. And it's the most consistent but also historically sound saison. What's the beer that we carry? That's the 1809. It's the Vapeur. It's in that red bottle.
Oh, we have the Saison de Pipa.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
No, his stuff's phenomenal. And you want to talk about revivalists? I mean, you couldn't pick like a worse business decision than to reopen that tiny little brewery and make beer that basically very few people in that area
nobody
want.
wants to drink.
No, they don't.
Exactly.
I think he drinks most of that beer.
Scaldus actually bottles and brews out of him sometimes.
I had no idea about that.
The Prestige Dunit. Yeah, that's bottled and brewed at Vapeur.
Yeah, he's like the Joe Beef of like you talk to those Joe Beef guys talk all the time in Montreal. They're like, we make no money. Like our accountant tells us all the time we should be like an art installation. And at least the way we get like government credits, for what we charge is like we walk with nothing. And like that's the whole thing. Is like it's a labor of love. And I think that's what we're really talking about. Like, if you were to really sync up what brings the old world producers into the new world producers, is the new world producers are really inspired by the labor of love. The really heartbreaking part, the thing that makes me the most crestfallen, is the new world producers also get all the accolades. So that's the whole thing where you just like you kind of grab your heart for a second and you're like, oh. You kind of take a knee for a second. You're just like, geez, like that just kind of that pains me in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that breweries like, whether it's Ethan over at the Fermentery or bottle shops like ours or tiny little places like Forest and Maine, that kind of
amazing people, amazing beers.
Like unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And they just want to they don't want to get rich. They just want to do their thing. Like there really is a sense of honor to it.
And that's why I sort of invoked Fantôme in a way. And it was more that it's beers that come from a perspective. It's a definable perspective. It's not anyone else's. No one makes beer that tastes like Forest and Maine. It's from those guys, and I think that, like you were saying, with this glut of breweries now, it really matters if you can pull it off, and it's not an easy thing to pull off. But I like it when people say, "This is what I want to drink." Forget about the broad definitions of style. These are the things about beer that I really like. I'm going to make this thing, and it's going to come from this place.
Well, you're talking about provenance.
Yeah.
You really want provenance. Like, hey man, this is what I taste like.
Yeah, and we can't claim anything like terroir or any of those grand things. I know some people do, and some people can do it. But we're in West Kensington.
It's a bit academic anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we're in West Kensington. Those beers are just what we want them to be. That's it. It's our perspective. We hope other people share it. But really, it's just us doing what we like. That's it.
We should mention.
Yeah, we should mention. Speaking of doing what you like,
Form to Table from Fermentery, which is a table beer, 3.5%. Amazing to have a table beer with such character. Mm-hmm. It's always great to have a characterful beer that's not, beyond sessionable in alcohol. I'm really, really digging this.
Thank you.
Really nice.
Are these all noble hops?
These are all noble hops. And
so Tettnang, Hallertau?
No, this was Styrian Bobek and Styrian Celia. And actually, the Styrian Celia hops are somewhat old, actually. So I intentionally selected a hop that had degraded some because it was one of those things where you smell a bag of hops and it had this funk and character that was amazing, and it worked. I had a high suspicion that it would, but dry hopping beers with old hops is not generally a thing people do.
Well, not what they do for kind of current breweries, but certainly what they do for, like if we were sitting here with the people at Greyfontaine, Jardin, if we were talking to Frank Bone, they would say, like, why would you ever use fresh hops?
Yeah, and we have a hop loft at our place. We've got whole cone and pellets from all over the place, mostly noble stuff. And some of the hops up there are 10 years old, and they all bring a little bit of a different character.
Have we all been to Ethan's joint?
I have not. In fact, I was going to ask where in West Kensington it is.
So we're right at Cecil B. Moore and Palethorpe Street.
Okay.
It's a relatively large building, and we just have a little tiny 1,400 square foot chunk of it. And it's separated basically into a small tasting area. We've got a huge pyramid stack of barrels in the middle, and our tanks are on the other side. All of our beers are actually brewed off site at St. Benjamin's.
Okay.
And so we bring our recipes to them. I'm there whenever things are getting brewed on site to answer whatever questions they might have about the process. Our process is somewhat strange for them. We've brewed, obviously the only beer with intentionally old hops, the weakest beer and the strongest beer that they've ever brewed. So it's kind of funny to put those benchmarks in.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, we have like specific pHs we want to hit. We, do weird things with timing and whirlpool and stuff like that. So it's always a bit of a question and answer session. Some beers we use no oxygen on. So yeah, it's fun.
That's cool. How did you strike up the deal with them to brew your beers there?
Well, I mean, it was kind of serendipitous. They're 3 blocks away, which is great. And we were talking to a couple people about contract brewing for us, and really for what we do, we just need the brew house for a day, and then we're out of your hair. We don't use their fermenters, so it's real quick. And I went over there and talked to them and talked to their guys. Got a great feeling about it. We were able to hash out a arrangement that works well for the both of us, and I've really enjoyed it. I love the brewers over there. I think they're great. I think they make some great beer, and so far they've just been killing it for us.
That's really cool. I didn't know if they would have the room or enough equipment to be able to do that. But if it's only a day, I guess, you can get in one of their off
Yeah, I mean,
days.
the thing with part of the reason that we started a brewery that doesn't have a brewery is that there are so many breweries in the area.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really expensive kettles and mash tuns that are sitting
Just
there lonely
sitting around
most
the
of the
city.
week.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not fermenting there and you're not conditioning there, like you're just in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a fun thing for the shift brewers to do because, if you're just basically banging out batches, it's fun when someone comes in with something kind of off the wall that's different for you. So we always have fun. It's a great time brewing there.
If you have your own spot, do you have like a tasting room then for your stuff?
We do. We have
okay.
we have a small tasting area. Our place is funky. It's up a weird old alley. We don't have a sign.
Got a very European vibe to it.
Yeah,
it's kind of definitely.
I was going to say.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find. It looks like you shouldn't go down that alley, but then once you get down there, you find this little magical place.
If the green light is on,
very Brooklyn of
you
you.
can come in.
The green light is on. Okay.
There's a green light outside, and if the light is on, stop by.
Okay.
You're open this Saturday, though, right, for bottles?
Yeah, we are from 2 to 6 p.m. for bottle sales.
Cool.
And yeah, it's fun because you go up this kind of funky alley that's looks like it's been there forever. You pass a horse stable.
I think that everybody in the area, I mean, that you're in, is always like trying to get over the fact, like, hey, it's in Kensington. But before it was Kensington, it was Kensington.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's there is kind of like a bygone renaissance that's happening.
Sure.
But also like much like a lot of business people are doing, whether it's William and Paul at Johnny Brenda's, or the people that have opened many businesses that have kind of come and gone, or businesses that are thriving, their Pizza Brain or Little Babies. You're talking about diaspora, and,
Sure.
and diaspora kind of gravitate towards an area that is undervalued. And they kind of make their home, they nest. And
I think for us, like much like the beer, it's we have this little hideaway. It's very specific. It's very us, and we're not really over there trying to get anyone's attention terribly. But when people find it and they walk through the door, and they see this little kind of oasis in this sort of industrial jungle. It's a fun thing, and I feel like people have a great time there because it feels like it shouldn't happen. And there's something nice about that, I mean, we're not trying to be too pretentious with the whole like, can you find this thing or whatever, but it is just kind of like us to carve out a little space and just be there.
You guys had that great homebrew event, that Christmas homebrew event that I was at.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was amazing, but the beer, really, anybody that's listening to this, if you get there, it's really extraordinary beer. It's I mean, just for my money or lack thereof, it's the finest, most well curated beer I've had in a really, really long time. It's wild beer for a lager drinker.
Yeah,
it's precise.
It's a good way to phrase that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Put that on your business card.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So clearly they've got your bottles here for sale. Do you
Sure.
distribute throughout the city, or is it just
We don't
here?
very widely.
I would imagine not if you're using St. Ben's equipment.
There's only a couple places that have bottles right now. We're sort of slowly bringing them into the city, mostly looking for like-minded accounts. It's not the kind of thing that every bottle shop is really looking for. So it's finding the places that are good niche, and certainly this is perfect for us. There's some bottles at Kensington Quarters that you can actually have on site, which is nice. They make great food there, and I think we try to make drinking beers and food beers, and I think that's a great pairing over there. And there's some kegs around town too. Just brought some stuff over to Strangeloves. There's stuff on here.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, you're making a mark then.
I want to go back.
Where else? I mean, we're sitting here. We talked about our places, which is great.
Right.
But where else can the beer be had that's not related to us?
Actually, at this time, I don't know if there's any other place.
Oh, exclusive.
Yeah. Well, it's not exclusive. If they
there was
ever
some stuff on at Martha, which is a wonderful spot.
Martha's amazing,
and everyone should go to Martha. I believe that is kicked now, though. They may have some bottles of Form to Table to have in the restaurant, which would be a great move. Amazing food there.
I want to ask you about the Pyramid of Barrels. What is currently in the Pyramid of Barrels?
Pyramid of Barrels?
Yeah, so we do pyramid stacking. So when you see pictures of lambic breweries, they're not all on the 2 and 2 racks.
Right.
They're stacked up like wineries, and we built a stack. I think it's about somewhere between 52 and 55 barrels at this point, and they're 4 high.
Say that again?
It's about 52 to 55 barrels at this point.
Wow. In your tiny little 1,400 square foot spot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture this. I need to come to your spot.
They're 4 high, and the thing about pyramid stacking is it's incredibly spatially efficient.
Yeah.
So it takes up way less space than if they were in racks, believe it or not. We
Makes
couldn't go
sense.
nearly as high. And so the one half is totally full, the other half we're working on, and that is it's a lambic-inspired beer. Unlike some of the American breweries that are kind of doing the same thing, who are making more of blonde American wild beers, we're really trying to do it specifically with using only aged hops. We're trying to do it much more in their tradition, and we're looking for those kind of flavors. We're looking for slow maturity, a kind of complexity that a lot of the sort of there's a lot of really sour kind of one-notey things that are out there, and it's just not for us. We're really trying to, using our mixed cultures and using wood and using old hops, create a range of flavors that can be blended into something really complex.
Well, not just another sour beer.
Not just another sour beer. In fact, we don't call it sour beer generally.
Well, the sour beer is it's the biggest.
Sourness is the least interesting thing about lambic.
Well, it's acetaldehyde. I mean, it's green apple. I mean, it's the if you show anybody that knows their palate from a hole in the ground, and that's me being very PG. But if you show anybody that really knows what they're talking about, 100 sour beers, they'll show you 99 that are bad.
Sure.
That's just the nature of the beast. I mean, it's like penny candy. You mean I can get 100 for $1? Holy moly!
Yeah, I mean, just because it's sour and was in a barrel does not mean it's good.
Exactly.
You know, I really
and it is very easy to make things
You guys
sour.
have been working
It's kind of
so
nature.
easy.
You know, you guys have been working on this vision for over 10 years now. You know, so this wasn't just, we're going to open this brewery and then figure out how to make this shit. This has really been like a very, very focused sort of vision for what you guys are doing, and it's really showing in the beers. Like you can't just, we're going to make this Saison, throw some bread at it, and hope for the best. And sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't. Like I think, you're a lot more methodical than a lot of these other, especially newer places that are coming.
Yeah, I mean, we try, and we definitely had some awakenings. I mean, we made some very sour beer for a long time, and I think we sort of collectively at one point were like, you know what? I don't actually really like to drink this.
It's boring.
And it was weird. I'm like, wow, I've got like half a cellar of stuff that is kind of, you know what? And then I just woke up one day and dumped like 20 cases or so.
I want to give you the biggest, wettest kiss right now in the whole wide world.
And I did it to recover the bottles to put better beer in.
50 kisses your way. I'll do it over time. But I love it.
You won't know when they're coming.
One of the things we talk about all the time when we're discussing our beer amongst ourselves is, we really would like it if someone could put down a bottle themselves in a casual manner at home, enjoying an evening, and not have to bring it to a share to get rid of it. We want it to be drinkable stuff that you can just enjoy. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to test anyone's palate. They're mixed fermentation drinking beers. That's what we call them.
I kind of like that aspect because it's no secret that I like high ABV beers, and they tend to come in large format bottles. So, like for birthdays,
which is trouble.
It is, yeah. So birthdays and Christmas and whatever people don't want to drink, they send my way, and I can't finish them more often. Like we had the one bottle from 0 Day, the whatever it was, super duper dark, 15% or whatever.
It was like 15%. Yeah,
neither of us finished. We split the bottle and we couldn't finish it. It was such a heavy beer.
Yeah,
so to have a large format bottle that is easy drinking is huge. Well, I know there's more I want to get into, and I know we have to get into the game. I know there's another beer that was open at the table, but of course, I'm curious about what Grainfather is. And I probably could have timed that better besides when you were taking a sip of your beer. I was looking at the website earlier, and is it like more efficient home brewing equipment, basically?
Yes, basically. So the company that I work for is called iMake, and that's sort of the umbrella for all of the different brands that we have. So we have the Grainfather, which is our line of home brewing equipment. We have Mad Millie's, which is a line of cheese-making kits, home fermentation supplies. So basically anything fermented, you can make at home, whether that's yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles. We supply all of the equipment, cultures, and everything like that to get started on it. We have our Mangrove Jacks line, which is we have a yeast lab and yeast bank in the United Kingdom. We're manufacturing our own lines of brewer's yeast, beer kits, and then we have Still Spirits as well, which is a line of home distilling equipment.
Wow.
Which is legal in New Zealand, but in the United States, it's for distilling your own water and making your own essential oils at home, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
For educational purposes only.
Yeah.
So you supply potential homesteaders?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, so people that are like, you want to get off the grid.
Yeah.
Is anyone in this room
down,
using
you'll be okay.
essential oils right now?
Negative.
Holy moly. Changed my life.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have to buy into that kind of thing to be with that company where they're like, hey, you should try essential oils?
No.
I am diffusing like a mofo.
Really,
Man, it is crazy.
Yeah.
I have my diffuser on a timer with grapefruit. So grapefruit oil, and then when I get home, my daughter is like chronically doesn't want to eat at all. Eats like a pig. When the grapefruit mist is in the air, I mean, solved. All of my first world problems have been solved.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm now next world.
I'm glad we could help.
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't say you did.
Yeah.
But I'm just online with you. But I have no more first world problems. I'm now next world. Right? I'm going to sleep on time. I've got a very healthy appetite. My kids are very happy. My son Valentine literally busts with excitement about the oil blends that he makes. He's like, I use bergamot root and lemongrass and holy moly, patchouli, amazing.
Oh boy.
So your house
kind of
smells like a
schooling.
fish show.
My house smells like a head shop.
Yeah.
But you know what? My kids are super, super happy, and they're able to partake in their own homeopathic kind of like way. And so when I heard the essential oils, it's like, oh, that's amazing. Like, you know, like they have a hand in their own destiny, their own sleep patterns, their own hunger patterns, and they really enjoy it.
You know, I never would have realized that there was a close relation to distilling and fermenting between essential oils to, I mean, the equipment that you guys are selling.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, with the distilling, you're using the alcohol as a solvent to extract the essential oils from the plants and everything like that as well. So it's kind of, you know, it's used predominantly for other things, only in New Zealand, though.
Predominantly, but only.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Grainfather, that's really been our bread and butter in the U.S. as well.
Well,
so.
with as I don't even know the word I want to use, but as big a culture as there is with brewing and home brewing. So, but the tag I like for it is that you can ensure anyone can brew a professional craft beer no matter their brewing experience. I've only ever brewed once. I brewed with a Mr. Beer kit. Could I brew an actual beer on your system?
Yes, you absolutely could, and you could make a way better beer too. You know, I see a lot of home brewers, you know, that give it a go, but they start with these shitty Mr. Beer kits or something like that, and they make one batch. It's awful.
Yeah,
because they're using like baker's yeast and ingredients that are probably 5 years old.
Yeah, that's
to
about
make
right.
it, and you know, they're like, oh well, I'm not good at this. This is frustrating. I'm not going to do this again. When in reality, they just didn't really get a good start at it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
mine was a gift, and I didn't want to let it expire, so I figured I'd try it.
And I mean, for something like this probably isn't going to be your very first rodeo because it's not super cheap.
Right. Well, yeah, I saw it.
But, you know, we were trying to kind of adapt what are the commercial breweries using to make their lives easier in a semi-automated system, and is there any of that we can apply to home users to keep, you know, one, it's an all-in-one unit, so you don't have to go buy a bunch of pots and propane burners and all this other shit. You know, it's electric, so you can use it in an apartment or anything like that.
It's great, too, because, you know, having started off as a home brewer and still home brewing, when you first get into it, there's different types of people. Some people want to nerd out on all the gadgets, and, like, you go on some of these sites like Homebrew Talk, and the amount of crazy mods and things you can do, it can just be endless. And it can be hard to even settle in on what your base equipment is and like dial it in and learn how to get it to make good beer. With something like the Grainfather, if like that's not what you want to do, if you just want to get something that works and will make the best beer possible, you don't have to worry about any of that other stuff. I mean, I feel like I wasted years.
Is anyone smelling what I'm smelling?
No.
Essential
Second
oils?
show. Grainfather show. Dedicated show. Right?
So I was looking at the website earlier, too. It looks like everything is in New Zealand prices, New Zealand dollars. What's the conversion rate? Or, like, what does that translate to in U.S. dollars for a basic kit?
So for the basic Grainfather unit, you're looking at around $1,000 U.S. Right. Which for an all-grain brewing setup, you know,
right.
if you're trying to cobble that together with all these pots, and
you can easily spend that.
You know, it's easy to do that off the bat, and then this way, you know, you can just get right into it and start brewing and not have to worry about having a garage full of shit.
And you can use your like cell phone in order to.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah,
like,
you can
set it
upload
up.
like recipes and
Jackets,
stuff.
everything. It's like from the future.
Yeah,
it's like from the future.
Yeah, we do have an app that you yeah, we have a dedicated app for it that you can upload, download, store any of your recipes. We have an online community that, you know, allows you to sort of rate and share all of your other recipes, but you can just bring it up on your phone, program it. You can, as pre-programmed step mashing as well. So if you bring up something you're brewing all the time, pull it up, and it's just automatically ready to go for you. And we'll do a lot of your steps. You know, it's not a completely automated system. You're still involved with the process, but, you know, it definitely can make it a little bit easier for people as well.
That's cool.
How about if you have problems while you're like brewing with it? Like if you're not sure, since it's not like the typical setup most people are doing. Like if you have problems, do you have to call New Zealand? Like what's happening?
You're calling me now. But no, they do have really amazing customer service, and should we
put your number on? No,
not right now.
That's it. Yeah, it's actually because you see a lot of like these home brewing kits nowadays, like everything from Mr. Beer up through like the sort of thing, the Grainfather, and there was that silver box.
Yeah, I forgot the
that
name
we
of it
talked
was,
about on
but
the show not too long
we
ago.
blasted that thing.
Yeah, and there's so many of these things where it's like, oh, push 3 buttons and you make your own beer, and it's kind of like, well, I mean, why not just go buy beer at that point? So it's cool to see. Like it sounds like what you guys have is sort of like a crossroads between like, you know, building your own Frankenstein homebrew setup and, you know, having a Mr. Beer or a box with a button that spits out beer. Like it's a nice sort of.
Yeah, we're just trying to make it easier for people to make better beer and just have a really good experience with the thing as well, too. You know, we're just trying to... We don't want people to get frustrated. We don't want people to have all of this equipment to worry about. And, you know, with the ease of it as well, like you can do a 5-gallon all-grain batch in 4.5 hours with the system as well. So it really kind of cuts down on a lot of the time, you know, especially people that, you know, working or have families or anything like that. It just kind of makes it the hobby more accessible to more people and allows for better quality of beer for everything, and that's really what we're striving for.
And you know what? I'm noticing a theme for the night: curation. It all seems about curation. The beer here at the bottle shop is curated. Your ingredients and your brewing system, or your brewing style, is certainly curated, Ethan. And then all the Grainfather stuff seems like it's a curated system. So I see a theme. I see what you guys did with this. It's like you got together and planned it.
Well, we also curate by a lot of heavy discrimination. So we've also curated our company.
We also like to drink together a lot.
Yeah.
Well, there's that too. Yeah,
that as well.
Yeah. We curate our company so that we are all like, you know, it's all front loaded with like when we run into each other, it's like, oh, we totally get along.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't even have to be like we don't have to suss each other out. It's like, oh, yeah, this works.
So I want to.
What are we drinking right
Yeah,
now?
I want to talk about this beer. It
and
just
I
got handed
took a
to us,
sip
and then I
it's
want to.
awesome.
Then we got to get into Happy Fun Time game.
Yeah, so this is the Goose Vandervelden 135 years from Obersel. I brought this. I don't know if it's available in the States. I acquired it through the magic of the internet. But I'm a huge fan of Obersel, and they don't get enough love in the States. They're unfortunately overshadowed.
The most underrated goosery.
They're unfortunately overshadowed by some of the, you know, well, one particular from Brussels.
I'll tell you, no joke. I do blind tastings all the time. Cantillon rarely comes in the top 3.
Yeah,
and that like Jean-Pierre's a pal, right? And Jean-Paul's a pal.
Yeah,
but you know, blind tastings. I mean, blind tastings.
And I think the thing is, Cantillon makes a lot of rare fruited varieties, and so the whale hunters are busy all the time acquiring those. And the weird thing is, it doesn't seem like any of those people like Goose.
Well,
which is hilarious to me because that's really the art. I mean, the fruit beers are great.
We could have a whole other show.
Yeah,
I could sell as much Cantillon as I want to sell. And, Sarah, how long does Bone sit on the shelves?
Sadly, longer than I want.
Well, and what's good is it's going to get better. But you know what? Truth be told, every blind tasting I've ever done, 1 or 2, you know, it comes in.
Yeah. And that black label that's sitting right there is
say
one
that
of the
black
best things he's done in a long time.
Won at World Beer Cup.
And I'm a huge fan.
But to go back to what we were talking about, how some of, you know, people who are buying beer, coming up on some of these newer styles that are literally, you know, taking the older styles and bringing them back in. This black label was released not that long ago, but 2 years ago when they won the World Beer Cup with it, that beer was gone in 2 seconds. Now, why now this beer can't be gone in 2 seconds again? It's notoriety, but this beer hasn't gotten any worse.
No, it's not even that. It's just that we're in a market where, you know, everyone is just a neophyte. You know, if it's not new, it's not good. And it's like, well, you know, and unfortunately, you know, neophilia kind of places you into the Philistine. And it's like, hey, you know, I mean, we're not trying to be lording anything over you, but if you're not appreciating this...
It is weird when people...
I'm having a hard time not knowing like what you really want.
Yeah, it is weird when people seem to know about all of the new hip stuff and they don't know anything about, real goose or something like that. I mean, everyone has their own, beer geek fix where they look. We've all got blind spots, but if you're chasing down fruited wild bottles and you don't know your goose well, it just seems like you're running after the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like I use speech marks. I can't feed duck legs in olive oil all the time because olive oil is cheaper than duck fat. And people that I know that I serve it to that know food, I was like, oh, that's a really smart idea. People that are new to food are always like, that's not really confit. And it's like, motherfucker, how about you say thank you that I'm making you anything, right? Because I invited you to my house, and I'm making you
You're having the wrong people over.
Oh, well, you know what, man? Sometimes they present differently. Fact.
Sometimes they present.
This is true.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but it's like that. It's like everyone. It's like it's this new awakening, and everyone is so smart, and it's like you're only half smart.
Yeah.
Like you don't really because you didn't have to come up. We are living in a culture of drinkers that never had to drink bad beer.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. That's a really good
I haven't
point.
looked at it that way either.
You have a lot of drinkers that are drinking old or bad beer and just don't really know it. There's been so many employees that have started here with very little beer background, and we raise them up right, and as soon as I give them an old beer, and I'm like, this tastes like an attic or something off flavor, they, a week later, will be like, I'm happy you taught me that, but now I'm sad, because now when I go somewhere and I drink a beer, I know that that's a bad beer.
Well, it's not even that. It's that they've had to drink, for, the majority of the people at this table, we cut our teeth on Milwaukee's Best or the Beast.
Yep.
And that was for us. That was our entry level. And now you're looking at we're sitting here in West Philly where we're surrounded by future
some of the best beers in the world,
future presidents, right? Being near Penn's campus, and these kids they're not drinking Beast. They're drinking 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they were probably drinking lager, right, which was great. And God bless Yuengling, for our area, exposing that. But now they're probably drinking Yards Philly Pale Ale,
Sure.
as their entry level beer.
Yeah,
because they're keg party beer is now not. Yeah.
That's what's muddying the water, is that no one knows what it's like to have the aha moment, that watershed. Holy moly! I can remember. I tell you. 306 Kaufman Street, Philadelphia, PA 19147. I was in the basement. I had a
everybody go there right now.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, go there right now.
Go there. Total just home invasion. This isn't live, right?
Podcast is not
right, they'll have time. They'll have time to figure it out.
Don't look in that one closet.
But I drank a Sierra Nevada Celebration Ale, and I remember being like, "Holy moly, this beer is hoppy." I remember looking at the label and it's seen 6.7 and be like, dude, I better watch out. Right? I am an alcoholic. Fact.
Yep.
And at 6.7, I got scared.
Yeah.
So in 1998, I got scared. It was like, holy shit, man. This thing is going to ball me all up. And I still wait for that beer to come out. For that, celebration of raucous. Of whimsical, just throwing caution to the wind. And now everybody else that's at the table, they have everything. And I don't begrudge them for it. Yeah. But I refuse to have them tell me they're an expert.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely sympathize with the people who are running after all the new stuff. It's attractive when a ton of activity is going on in one area. And things are happening so fast you can't get a hold of the beer. People are trying to track down things by any means they can. And it's being drawn to that activity is natural. I think it's a natural human thing to do. And a lot of the beers we're talking about and that we're giving love to are things that people can walk into many places and get any time. So they know that's always going to be there. And so they never get to it. You know, it's like digital music. It's the same thing. You know.
Or like awesome hand holding and French kissing. I am never. Listen, I am never going to be on my deathbed at any point in time and say to the person that's next to me, like, you know, I just kissed too many girls. Like, man, I wasted all this time, and if there's one thing I could take back, it was kissing all those people. Right? It's never going to happen. Vigorous hand holding is always going to be in style. And what's happening is, like, everyone's like, oh, what's the next thing? And it's kind of like, you know, it's so, I mean, for me, speaking only from my very limited vantage point, and I am above all things hopeless. And in a really short period of time, you know, like going down the list, you know, you'll find that I'm also a romantic. And when the romance is taken away, is I get toothless. Yeah. I get to be very milquetoast about it, and I'm like, you know, if the strength in numbers isn't there, I just can't. I can't build the lather for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and you need that. Yeah. And I just think that that's where we're at. We're this really interesting precipice of, you know, are we going to be romantics or are we not?
Yeah.
And no matter what it's about, I want us to be romantics.
Yeah. And when you're all bummed out, you can always just go and get a Westmalle or a Saison Pupaille, and no one's going to be in line in front of you.
You said it first.
Thing.
Very well said. Well, I know Wayne has notes pulled up on his phone about something that we have to do. I'm going to see if the soundboard wants to work now, because I feel like it is time for a Happy Fun Time game.
Is it that time already?
It is, and it works, sort of.
It is that time already. Cheers, the Internet, and welcome to Happy Fun Time Games, the only podcast trivia segment that is bottle-conditioned and properly cellared. Today, we are playing everyone's favorite Happy Fun Time game, Libation or Fabrication, Belgian edition.
Hey!
This is a game in which I will give you the name of a beer, and you must tell me whether that beer is real or fake, and all the beers are Belgian beers in today's game. So we will begin in time-honored tradition to my left, not with Dan, but with Steph. Now, fair point, since like all of you are obviously huge Belgian beer fans, I expect you all to do very well in this game. Dan and Steph, I know,
not so much.
Maybe not so much. It's not exactly your particular forte, but we'll see how things go. Beginning to my left, Steph, is this a real or fake beer? This beer is Pissenlit.
What is it?
Pissenlit.
That's real.
It wasn't your turn.
I'm going to say real.
See, that's why.
What were the rules of the game?
That's why Steph goes first on that
one. Well, I think we know Ethan's answer then.
Ethan's obviously saying it's real.
Yeah.
Sarah's up next, but she is kindly.
Are we going to really? We're going to go through the whole thing.
I think everybody's going to. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Everybody gets the point.
Let's move on the next one.
Let's go real.
Let's go 1 point. We'll just, move on.
Everybody gets a point on that one.
What a dick.
So I just wanted to include that one because I really like the name Pissenlit.
Pissenlit.
Pissenlit obviously is from Phantom, who we were talking about earlier, and this is where Danny comes in that we had referenced earlier. Pissenlit is actually the French word for dandelion,
nice.
and it is called that because uncooked dandelion has a diuretic effect, and the French name Pissenlit literally means wet the bed. Yes. And that's why it's called that. Yes, but the
that's like the. Does anyone remember the Brice Bonbon that he made?
Yeah.
Which is Brice Bonbon means like having a lot of balls.
Oh right.
Yeah, it was like the hoppiest beer he ever made.
Nice. But yeah, the offbeat brewer at Phantom, who we mentioned earlier, they pick bushels of dandelions in the spring that grow in the fields around their farmhouse brewery. They dry them in the sun, soak them in the water for a few days, and the thick, dark, resulting dandelion tea is the basis for Pissenlit.
You can all come over later and drink it with me at my house if you want to.
All right.
Yeah. It's very German.
Very German.
I am German, thank you.
Moving on, and Ethan is actually first to guess on this one, so you're allowed to say this first, okay?
Okay.
This next beer, tell me if it's real or fake. This is Black Albert.
That's real.
All right, saying that is real. Sarah, what do you think?
Real.
Real as well. Moving over to Jason.
Real.
Brendan.
Destrusa. Real.
Finally, Dan.
I can't buck the trend. I got to go real.
All right.
Wait, finally?
Finally.
And finally.
Real.
Real,
yes. Everybody saying real. Everybody is
unanimous.
correct again. It
With
is
Tenacious D.
13% Imperial Stout from De Struis Brouwers. It's a Belgian Royal Stout that was brewed and crafted with 100% Belgian ingredients as a tribute to one of America's best watering holes, Ebenezer's Pub, run by Jennifer and Chris Lively in Lovell, Maine. 35 beers there on draft, mostly hard-to-find Supreme Belgian ales, and one of the most extensive bottle-conditioned beer lists you will find. Moving on, and Sarah's going to guess first on this one, and this next beer is called Frappadingue. Is that real or fake?
I'm going to go fake on this one.
All right, saying that one is fake. Jason, what do you think?
Going fake as well.
Going fake as well, Brendan.
Fake.
Fake as well. Moving over to Dan.
I feel like I have to say fake.
Oh, right.
Dan also saying fake, and Steph?
Fake.
Fake and fake. All right. Everybody just blowing it out of the park today. That is, in fact, fake. It is not a beer. It is a French term, though. It is a slang word that comes from a portmanteau of two words meaning to hit and crazy. It does not mean to assault the mentally unstable, but it just means a madman or a lunatic. Frappadingue. Moving on, and where are we at here? I think did I skip?
Jay.
No, we are on Jason
Yeah,
to get
Jason.
first. I thought I skipped somebody for a second there. There's a lot of people at the table right now. This next beer is called Chateau de Pamplemousse. Is that real or fake?
Real.
Saying that is real. Moving over to Brendan.
It's a bona fide offer.
It's a bona fide offer?
Like Kaneki in Greece. It's a bona fide offer.
Does that mean it's real?
Oh, it means it's real.
Okay, that means it's real. Dan?
I'll go real.
Go real
I
as
guess.
well. Steph?
It's real.
Steph is saying it's real. Ethan
Real.
saying it's real. Sarah saying it's real. Chateau de Pamplemousse. Well, unless I know, you guys know something I don't. It's fake.
Oh, wow. Look at how
Yeah.
the mighty have fallen.
That is not real. It means House of the Grapefruit, which is kind of cool. But as far as Google's concerned, it's not a real beer.
I trusted you people.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I'm kind of glad that
I
that
just said
happened.
what everyone else was saying.
You know,
That's what everyone was doing.
does anyone know what Ethan's next beer is going to be called?
Chateau de Pamplemousse.
It's my favorite LaCroix flavor.
It is a LaCroix flavor.
I fucking hate that LaCroix.
I'm
gotten
with you.
All it's like Vintage
LaCroix.
did some really nice work.
They did.
Like and
Yeah.
that's like LaCroix, right? Has like usurped them. Talk about the Kingslayer. Ugh, the pits.
Yes. Moving on to our next beer of the game, and Brendan is going to guess first on this one, and this is Rubel Sexy Lager. Is that real or fake?
Based on my own repulsion to it, I'm going to say fake.
Going to say fake based on his own repulsion. Dan, what do you think?
I'm gonna say real.
Dan is saying that is real, Steph.
I'm saying real just because I don't think you would have come up with 3 fake beers.
That's exactly why I said it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Ethan, what do you think?
It's strange enough to be likely. I'm saying real.
All right, strange enough to be likely. Sarah?
I'll say real.
Saying real as well. And finally, Jason.
I'm going to go with real just because I want it to be real.
Just because you want it to be real. Brendan is the only one who was wrong because it is,
I love
in
it.
fact, real.
Amazing.
It is a 5%.
It's the first time this has ever happened to him.
Glad we could be here for the occasion. 5% American-style adjunct lager brewed by Brewers Association. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It was once described by...
Oh, that's the that's brew that makes
Hugo.
delirium tremens.
You,
Yeah, Hugo.
Is that how you
Yeah.
say it, Hugo?
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm so glad I was wrong. But honestly, based on association,
It was once described by a reviewer as a foul, weak, tasteless lager with no redeeming features whatsoever. It was also removed.
Sounds sexy.
It was removed from shelves in the United Kingdom not because of its poor quality, but due to its rather unusual label. Bottles of sexy lager featured images of scantily clad women, which is not surprising.
No.
Complete with scratch-off bikinis,
Oh, nice.
lotto ticket style.
that just leveled
so it
up
would seem
those
that I
pens.
am really the winner.
I think, all things being equal, yeah.
Maybe they should hook up with that Czech brewery making the women's beer as well.
Rosa,
Yeah, it seems
Yeah.
like they are very kind of have the same idea
Kind of the
going
same
on.
vibe
there,
going
you know?
on. Yeah, definitely.
It was like a scratch-off Cosmo quiz or something.
It was later rebranded as Golden Girl Pills without the scratch.
Thank you for being a friend.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to our final beer of the game, and Dan's up to guess first on this one.
Well, shit. All right.
And this beer is called, wait for it, the Belgian Quadrangle.
I'm going to say fake because that sounds like you.
Dan saying that is fake, Steph.
It does sound like you, but I want it to be real.
All right, Steph would like it to be real. Ethan, what do you think?
I'm going to say fake.
Going to say fake, Sarah.
I'm just going to go real to be different.
Okay, going real to be different.
Fake.
Fake. And finally, Brendan. Fake. I don't know if that was a whisper of confidence or like an unsure. I couldn't really read the tone there.
More like a Harry Potter thing.
When in doubt, Harry Potter. Well, it
Specto
looks
Patronum.
like the ladies at the table, unfortunately, were wrong because it is, in fact, fake. The Belgian Quadrangle may be a mysterious area where beer drinkers disappear, never to be heard from again, but it is not, in fact, a beer. I'm going to add up the points real quick here to see who our big winner is. And I apologize, my notebook is at a bit of a weird angle, so it's hard to talk into the microphone and look at it at the same time.
A weird Belgian quadrangle.
A weird Belgian quadrangle. There's a lot of notes on this paper. I believe, if my math is correct, tied for first place with 5 points apiece is, not surprisingly, Ethan, but surprisingly, Dan.
What?
Yeah.
All right. High five. Good job.
Oh, wait. The judges are re-reviewing. Jason also has 5 points for first place. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, we have a legitimate German sparkle party on our hands. Yes, we do. Not only for first place, but a German sparkle party for second place, tied with 4 points apiece. Steph, Sarah, and Brendan. So everybody performing very well. Yes. I think if maybe we had mixed up the order of who went first for different questions,
probably
some people would not have performed as well as others. But hey, it's all in good fun. But before we let you go, we want to tell you once again about Patreon and our awesome patrons who have been generous enough to donate to us at a level that gets their name read on the podcast. People like Wolfgang von Colt, Victoria Miles, Ron McDonald, Oakbrook Brewing Company, Marilyn Engelman, Josh Price, Joe Mansell, and our newest generous patron, Jen McDonald. Thank you, everyone on Patreon, not only those who got their names read on the podcast. If you want to find out how you can become a patron of the podcast, go to patreon.com/beerbusters to learn more.
Don't forget, you will get access to Beerbusters Last Call.
You will, and many, many other things.
Yes. Well, I know there's another beer in front of us, so I feel like I should actually play this clip because I didn't get to earlier.
Beer me! Beer me! Beer me! Beer me!
So what is this beer that was poured during the game?
We're drinking a 2016 Orval.
Ooh. That's all you need to say about this beer.
I think that's about it, yeah. I think we're pretty much good.
So, arguably what do I have to say about this? It's not the best beer in the world. It's the most well-made beer in the world.
Quintessential.
Yeah.
Okay. Certainly one of the best beers in the world.
Interesting.
Well, one of.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one of it. I mean, it's, you know.
Talk about, like, people...
One little Indian,
American.
2 little Indian, 3 little Indian, 4. I mean, that's dismissive.
And you could also talk about, like, for this beer or what we were talking about, American breweries kind of taking a nod from Belgians.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at...
And
then
not be
also
recognized.
talk about some people who have, went under an AB wing are making Matilda, which is also a great beer, and taking an ode of this and mixing it in. And what a great way of making maybe some of those younger drinkers go back to this beer.
Agreed. Yeah. No, Sarah brings up a good point. In addition, it should be noted that Goose Island did Matilda way before AB.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And Mike Jackson said, if there certainly was a best in show, I would pin it on the lapel of someone named Matilda. In his unbelievably romantic way. I used to be a caretaker of Mike Jackson when he was alive, which was a totally thankless job. And I would go to Whiskey Fest, and I would have to follow him around just to make sure, just don't take any more acid. And that was just my gig. You just do that. I was like 19. It was the funnest / worst job in the world.
That's amazing. Interesting detail about this beer. I don't know if you're familiar with the beer historian Ron Pattinson, who does the blog Shut Up About Barclay Perkins. But he's an amazing guy, and he's doing amazing things for knowledge about historical British beer. And he says he believes this is the last vestige of what real IPA would have tasted like.
Huh.
Oh, interesting.
The brewers were in contact at the time this beer was developed. And he thinks they took a huge influence from the English in developing this. And I think it's really cool. I like to believe that it's true because
they totally did. I mean, the Orval and the two most landmark Belgian breweries, Rodenbach and Orval, pulled every page out of English breweries.
Sure, yeah.
Rodenbach was blending, and everyone should remember, like, Brettanomyces is British yeast.
Yeah.
Dry hopping.
Yeah.
Orval was the first Belgian beer that was dry hopped. If anyone wants to ever really get back to like true country like ales, Britain.
Yeah.
The bitter. I mean, the bitter is we'll all get there one day.
Yeah.
Is my big hope.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
And it's funny you say about the bitters and British styles. So we were just at Oakbrook that we had mentioned. And they did an event where all weekend they had nothing but British styles on, which I was upset about because I wanted to try one of their stouts I haven't had yet. But it was nothing but bitters and milds. And it was really cool to see. There was a huge turnout for the event the night that we were there. And I was blown away. Even their own attempt at British styles, I think, was so true to it that it could hold up against some of the classic styles that you'd get overseas.
This is one of the few topics I remain speechless.
Yeah, all right.
It's like one of those things where, like, when I have that beer, I mean, Jay's the same way. There's nothing to say.
Yeah.
Those brewers just kind of get it the way.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't really see the Americans even really attempting solid versions of the British style.
No.
I don't really know if they're. I mean,
outside
people
of yards.
Outside of yards,
right?
Which
right.
are doing amazing work. There are Forest and Maine does some really, really amazing stuff. Conshohocken, their ESB is phenomenal. Usually a lot of the American brewers just.
Could we be talking about maybe Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just for whatever reason, maybe the market isn't there quite yet. I feel like a lot of Americans are looking for higher ABV stuff.
Yeah.
If they see a beer that's 3% alcohol, and it's still relatively the same price as a pale ale, they're going to start bitching about it.
And I think it goes in. What I was going to say, I feel like
that's not the point of that beer.
Exactly, and I feel like
you
common
put a grapefruit or passion fruit in a mild. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's a perception that they're not exciting.
Coors Light is coming in under 4%.
Yeah,
right.
Easily, and that's
but it also that doesn't cost the same as
no,
the other
it doesn't
styles.
cost the same. But I just would really like to see people push a little bit more towards that tradition. You can find your own way with that. That doesn't necessarily mean going a traditional American way where everything is just hop the shit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that, really depends on a lot of your sort of local ingredients. I think this is, you're seeing the sort of resurgence of craft malt companies popping up all over the country now, and like a bitter would be the absolute perfect vessel to showcase that. You're going to lose that if you're making a, 60 IBU pale ale. You're not going to taste any of that beautiful malt that all these farms worked on. So, like, really, I hope with that maybe that will kind of help drive this a little bit, where that's literally the perfect fucking vessel to showcase this barley that was grown 20 minutes from where you live. We see around here, we've got Double Eagles doing some really good stuff. Deer Creek, of course, has been doing some really great stuff, working with a lot of local farmers, doing, really high quality stuff. But I would really hope to see more people getting into the dark milds and the bitters and everything, but really using the local barley as the focal point of that as well.
And I think English styles are good. And I think like people who are into a specific sort of style or like related family of styles, it's either about the hops or it's about the yeast. And you don't get a whole lot of people who are really excited about malts.
Yeah,
in
malt
beers.
for the most part
like
is
on
an
the
afterthought.
consumer side. Like obviously brewers,
Yeah,
you put a lot of thought.
Or
into
they
malts.
say,
Yeah.
or a malty beer they expect to be at least 7% alcohol.
Yeah, and it's
or
all
something
stouts,
like
it's
that,
all
you know, but
porters,
that's
it's
not-
all
That's not the point of those beers.
Yeah,
you know,
and
the point
English
is that
styles
you
is
can
the
have
perfect
8
way
of
to-
them,
yeah.
and you're still in reasonable shape to get to work the next day.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think if we can get people excited about malt, we can get people excited about English styles of beer.
I'm all for it. I freaking
am.
love
I love
English
English styles.
style
Yeah,
ales.
me too.
That's the smartest thing that's been said on the show the entire time.
Wow.
I mean, the only thing that you need more than water is malt.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's one thing that I've been wanting to ask you, Ethan, and now that there's a silence at the table, talk to me about saisons and green versus brown bottles.
Interesting topic. So as far as saison goes, I don't know if I have a huge amount of philosophy on that. I'm still trying to figure out what that word means and if it has any utility anymore. I mean, we don't use that terminology on any of our labels. We don't mind if people call it that. I don't mind if it shows up on menus. I'm not trying to be hard-nosed about it. I just don't, for us, know what it really means. And so what I do know is that there's an approach that the makers of saison that I admire have, and I think that that's the admirable thing. It's a way of looking at beer. It's a way of looking at the world, and it's a way of looking at processes. And I think it's very unique in the brewing world. There's the people I respect who make great saisons. I think it's very different than a lot of the typical industrialized brewing. It has more of an open mind to the past, and I think that's one of the exciting things about it. Our beers are all mixed fermentation. We have our own house culture that we keep sort of like a sourdough starter, and that's out of kind of like idea of, you know, all of these things are out there. They all ferment. They all can make wonderful beer. Why not use all of that and allow that to have more of a say in what happens in the glass? Not lord over every ingredient so that everything's perfectly in line, but have that more, I mean, I guess you could call it farmhousey to invoke the historical thing, but just more of a relationship with your yeast and a relationship with your ingredients, and not so much a lockstep, got to get everything in line. I mean, it's sort of the fun of it. And like places like Forest and Maine that do really great saison, I feel like that's part of it. They're, you know, those guys are foraging their yeast from plants around their building every year. They throw the old yeast out. It's crazy, and it's beautiful. And so you have two different batches of Marius, and they're going to vary, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And so that's what we like. We're of a similar kind of attitude, very much inspired by history. I'm not trying to make historical beer. Right. I would never claim to. We're trying to make things we like, and I really like the interaction of the full host of microbes. I think beer, it's great that acidity is coming back to beer. A lot of the things that turns wine people away from beer is an overpresence of bitterness and no acidity. You know, it's great to have something that's got a little bit of that to I don't know, cut through a fatty dish you're eating or something like that. I mean, and we've had our time with extremely sour, and I think people are learning to dial it back now. And I think beers are getting softer and more elegant, and overall more approachable. You know, there's I think it's nice that someone who's older and not necessarily into beer that much can take something like I'm going to forget the name, but there's a like 3.4% Prairie mixed fermentation table beer that I think you could
like
put
the Americana or
I think you could put that beer in front of anybody. It's so nice, and I love that. Like it's a heady beer, but I think you could put it in front of anyone and they could appreciate it. And that's definitely, I think it's a mission for us, you know.
I mean, who knows? Really, who knows? I mean, everyone's taking so many different things. You know, I mean, Slim Jims were the only beef jerky that we knew until someone's dad got a food hydrator or a food dehydrator, and then they started doing that. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, this is new. So, I mean, we're all just, everyone's so green. I mean, even us. I mean, even as we're talking about, like, being a revivalist and wanting to do what's right by it, and we're trying to own this, like, kind of like keeper of a tome of historical, anthropological, flavors. We have no right to do that. And so it's whatever anybody wants. It really is it's about the supplier. I mean, do they want to be weak or do they want to be hard?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it really lies right now. I mean, and the sour beer thing it's so played out. I mean, you can put on sour beer. People just literally, when I used to tend bar at the Khyber, people used to walk up and be like, "Hey, what's your strongest beer?" I'll have that. And you could just say, like, well, we don't... If you really want that, you go to Anthony's, which is now Max. You go to Anthony's. Anthony's had Colt 45 on draft for...
Oof.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
$2.25 for a 20-ounce mug.
Yep, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was... I tell you what, man, in the beer culture then, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, because, it was like you'd go there and be like, you knew you were being... For lack of a better term, like, you knew you were being ghetto. You're like, fucking hey, man. Me and Billy D. Locking it down.
Yeah.
To drink 40s of camos and play spades and fucking high-gravity lager, Gangster Tuesdays.
Which is not what we're drinking now.
Yeah. No, it's not. I'm sorry.
Sarah, what are we drinking?
We're drinking the Saison du Pont in a green bottle.
In a green bottle.
The VL du Pont.
So to the green bottle thing,
yeah, we never quite got there yet.
I think for us it was, we're very lucky to be from a very Belgian beer-centric town. I drank a ton of Yingling lager in green bottles. The thing people call skunk to me is just beer flavor. And moving on from that to a great old German beer bar called Ludwig's, may it rest in peace. Put down a lot of beer there, and then also Monk's. When I started approaching farmhouse ales, they were in green bottles, and they had a little something else. And
Oxygen?
I've always loved it. I'm sure if it gets out of a certain range, as any beer flavor can, it's too much, too sour, too bitter, too skunky. But for me, it's like it's another seasoning, and when it's in that right zone, when I open up a bottle of Turier Extra, and it's just got that little bit of something else on top of all those hops, it's a beautiful thing.
I'll do you one better. When I open a bottle of Heineken, I mean, truth be told, I mean,
No, I've drunk a lot of Heineken.
Nothing really mimics the flavor of Heineken. Heineken tastes like Heineken.
Yeah,
interesting. I've never like that skunk like light struck
Grolsch?
described as like a
Grolsch, Heineken.
just sort of
I mean,
a
Rolling Rock.
characterful. Yeah,
It's really like those are like provenance
Interesting.
flavors.
Yeah.
You have those,
Yeah.
and you're like, man,
That's
you're
what
having
they
that.
Yeah,
interesting.
I'd say good for them.
Yeah.
I like that can be a preference, though. When you go back to you talking, or Ethan talking about, I'm going to brew the beer I want to drink, right, in this climate, rather than I'm going to brew the next hazy IPA with grapefruit or something. The fact that even just the bottle, forget the brewing, forget all the other things, that even then when it comes down to the very end thing you're going to put your beer in to sell, brown versus green can change the flavor, the essence of your brewery.
Absolutely,
is
yeah.
also amazing. Like, what another, like, science, like, I don't know.
Well, that's such a touchy thing too, though, because I mean, the brown versus green, or God forbid clear if you're drinking Corona. will allow that light striking to occur, but it's so delicate. Like, I mean, it could quite easily go around the bend, like you were saying, and become just like really off-putting. And it's, I mean, it's a matter of storage and handling.
We do protect our bottles from light somewhat. I don't want to encourage too much of that to happen, but I want to leave the door open. You know,
right.
Just like let some, and a lot of what we do is letting things that are not our mastery do something in our beer.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have, and hopefully never will have, a brew master. We don't master things. We work with what we like, with nature, with, science, light bands, if you will. And it's all just gently interacting with this force that's bigger than ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's the way that I like to approach making things. And there's many things that are made very well in super refined industrial situations.
Yeah.
It's not what I do.
More of like a guiding rather than manufacturing.
Yeah, we joke.
Shepherding.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we joke about
Mr.
being...
Crossword over here comes out with shepherding.
Yeah, we joke about being beer shepherds all the time.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
A gentle nudge in the right direction.
Just push it in the right direction, then they go the way they're going to go. And, hey, me, and, hey, that was that year.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what's so great is that you, as a producer, get to get some of the forgiveness that a vintner gets.
Yeah.
Which is, that was a bad year, but we'll wait till next year. A brewer never gets that forgiveness.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It's like,
I never thought of that.
Oh my God, yeah. It's like, it was such a bad year. Oh my God, I only.
Well, and even that, there's some people who...
It's $60 a bottle, but it was a bad year.
Yeah.
But
there's some people, though, who champion those lesser vintages. Some people say, that 2009 was a lesser vintage. There will be people who are hoarding those bottles. You know what I mean?
It's different. I mean, it's theirs. I mean, that whole difference. I mean, idiosyncratic quality is what makes everything great.
Yeah.
You're with them.
Yeah.
It's like somebody that's like, the fart smelled that way under the cover for that year. And that's really, that's a nuance. That's a nuance. That's a thing. You're like, hey man, warts and all. And it's, the reason why Blue Velvet was such a great movie was because of Isabella Rossellini's horrible teeth. It's like, it's that fucked up grill that makes it great. So it's that idiosyncratic quality that
Absolutely.
You're like, that's fucking interesting.
I think there was one more of your beers we wanted to try before we wrap up the show, right, Ethan?
Sarah, do we have any?
Oh, yeah.
Not just
I like her.
She said that without headphones. Look out.
So what is this other one that we're trying then, Ethan?
So that is Farmhouse.
Farmhouse.
That's a 6.5%. We call it a rustic golden ale. It's definitely taking some inspiration from the old idea of what saisons and farmhouse ales would be. It is tart. It has a bit of funk to it, and it's looking back to those times when they were preserving their farmhouse ale by blending it with lambic or something like that. That was a thing that was done. And so when we came out with these first two, we wanted to make a couple sort of statements about, who we are and what we like. And one of them was to have a beer that had more acidity to it. We wanted to have a nice balanced level of acidity in a beer where it's not a sour beer necessarily. And we wanted to have a table beer, something that was low ABV and flavorful. So this is a first of many mixed fermentation beers, vaguely in a farmhousey style, and it's got a lot of the things that we like as a sort of a first thing in the world. I think it's a good place to start for us.
It's very nice. It's got just enough bite.
Do you hear your own modesty when you talk about your beer?
No, I always think I sound like a megalomaniac.
Man, I gotta tell you. So from a guy that just drinks beer a lot, to the point where I stopped eating bread so I can drink more beer. All I want is this base beer. And that's when when you have a blended beer, that's when you know how good the beer is. When you just want the base beer. And you're like, okay, I get it. And like funk and sour and tart and like lemon verbena, grapefruit, yogurt, lactobacillus, all that stuff. But like when all you desire is like, man, this is so good. But man, if I could only just taste the fucking Pilsner that made this beer.
Yeah.
That's when you know that you're dealing with. And really, I don't know many breweries I can name outside of Ethan's that I really want to say that about. Mm-hmm. Because they're a city brewery. There's no there's no bucolic rolling landscape.
Well, and that's the whole joke with Farmhouse. It's like there is no farmhouse to speak of. It really is just us.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I like how you put that about wanting to try the base beer that made it, because the only time I've ever thought that was with beers that were barrel-aged in this or that for so many years, but never something like this. And I never would have thought of that, but now you're right. Now that you say it, it would be cool to see the beer that made...
Yeah, it
was the base, the inspiration for this.
Yeah, that's what you want. I mean, that's what anybody wants. Is like, hey, what was the jump-off point? Like, what was the thing that made it? You talk to any brewer, and he or she's going to be like, yeah, it's all about the base. Like, the rest is just like...
No trouble.
That's
Damn
magic.
it, I was just going to say it.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just like, leger de main. But, it's the base that's the most important part.
And I would say, to take a point of pride, all of our beers are incredibly simple. There's not a lot of crazy malt. They're like 2 ingredients, and they're whatever's there is there for a reason. And I'm always thinking about what I can take away.
And what's great about that is that it highlights the effect of the process. You take these simple ingredients and you do these things that people have been doing for thousands of years, and these amazing things happen. And like we were talking about earlier, with like even the bottle that it's stored in is going to have an effect on the final flavor and the final character of it. And it always amazes me to see, you can take water, barley, hops, and yeast and do so many things.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Farm to Table, for instance, is just Vienna malt and oats. And we chose Vienna because it's such a low ABV beer that we wanted to have some other complexity in any place we could get it. And I didn't want to go terribly dark or anything like that, but just having that little bit more of the toasting process in there. Just, I feel it brings another dimension, and I love Weyermann Vienna.
I mean, if no one that's listening to this is familiar with the Weyermann Vienna, but it's Bamberg malt. I mean, it's everyone's so obsessed with like Australia, New World hops. You can really grow hops anywhere. Literally, the provenance of hops is so pointless. But there's one place that malt comes from. In most brewers' minds, it's Bamberg. And the rest it's nice and it's cute. It's like, well, good for you. But like Weyermann is that's the standard that all of those are judged by.
So I want to talk about some of the events that you guys have coming up.
I hear they're having a really nice party at the local 44 bottle shop.
No one throws a party like local 44. What? So I want to talk about some of the events that you guys have coming up. One I'm super excited about, which is Thursday, July 27th. You're launching the Von Trapp brewery here in the Philly area. And Von Trapp is actually going to be here in the house at the bottle shop, which is super cool.
That's awesome.
Yes. One of the owners, Sam Von Trapp, will be here. And I believe you mentioned the second person was going to be here, too.
Yeah, Mike Whitey he's the head of sales as well.
Sales guy.
And they'll be
super
bringing their Golden Helles, their Pilsner, and a fresh batch of their Oktoberfest getting ready for the fall. They specialize in lagers. They're from Stowe, Vermont. I'm from upstate New York, so I've drank their Pilsner a couple times up at home every time I've gone up. I am a Pilsner fan,
Me
lager
too,
fan.
yes, girl.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when we're
My
talking
favorite.
about something simple but very sophisticated, I mean, let's talk
Pils
about a
is where it's
Pilsner. I'm excited to launch them in the city from 6 to 8. Both of them will be here. We're raffling off a 2-night stay at the Von Trapp Lodge.
Whoa.
which is
Hello.
Hello. Eddie beer lovers. Let's go. It's but
need
if
to
you
come.
win the raffle, you have to invite me as your second person. No, we have Star Hill on Monday. We always do tastings on Monday. Always a gamut of different brewers. Look for any events on our pop-up Tuesdays throughout August. We have coming up in August. We have a beer week beer school that we do the third Wednesday of every month. Come August, we have Warren from Bell's. It's an RSVP event. He's going to literally teach us all how to taste beer. He's going to blow the whole tasting map of the tongue out the water and really let you know how you should be tasting beer. I really look forward to it. He's an exceptional beer mind that I've come across, and I'm very happy to have him. That'll be, I think, August 21st.
And, there's always something that's going on. Like, the whole point for the shop is to make sure that we're not lording anything over you, and that if you don't trust us, we're going to bring in people that you can trust in addition to us, and that's the whole thing. Is like, I think that we think as an ethos is like, listen, you're buying it, fucking enjoy it. If we can bring in people that are going to let you enjoy it more, then enjoy it more. And we really like just kind of coming in and having a job to do every day.
Yeah, I love just talking about beer. I love the people who come in and are just like, I'm not sure what I want, and I saw this, I had this beer, had this label, had this flavor. They're really very few descriptors. That's one of my favorite customers. I'm like, let me figure this out. My favorite thing to do.
So what did you give him?
Chesterfield Ale.
Give me a recent one. Give me a recent one.
Core 45 on draft.
20 ounce
220 a 20-ounce jug. It was amazing.
So if you want to check out more about Local 44, the restaurant, the bottle shop, local44beerbar.com, and they're on all the socials. Now, Ethan, what are your current hours? When can people come visit you?
So we're trying to consistently keep Saturday 2 to 6 p.m. for bottle sales. We're working on getting the tap room to the point where we can have people in it. But for now, it's just bottle sales, 2 to 6 p.m. on Saturdays. Other things, TBA. We use Instagram a lot. That goes to Facebook.
But private parties? Could people do private parties?
They absolutely can.
Your website?
Birthday parties?
Website is fermenteryform.com. Shorter version is just firmform.com. That works too.
Oh, nice.
Covering your bases. I like it.
We're on Facebook as well. That's basically just a duplicate of Instagram. But that's where you find out the details, and there's always something going on.
Jason, grainfather.com.
Yes, grainfather.com. We've got the units available. Any of your better homebrew shops, but here at least locally, both of the Philly homebrew outlets as well as Keystone Homebrew. And all of those places are definitely worth checking out on their own anyways. Definitely run by some really great, really passionate people that just know their shit and love to talk about it and educate people as well.
Yeah, early on before we started the show, you took me to Keystone at one point, and I was kind of blown away with everything that was there and how friendly everybody was. And yeah,
It's like a grocery store for homebrewers.
pretty much, yeah.
Anything else anyone wants to plug?
Philadelphia.
There you go.
I applaud
only,
It's a wonderful city.
Yay.
We only, Pennsylvania. Well, really, Pennsylvania. We only gave, Philadelphia gave the entire landscape their freedom, and then Pittsburgh built it. And
And now Harrisburg rules it.
But I mean, that's we live in this amazing city. It really is. It's a city like I want to take a knee almost every single day. I walk around my city and I'm just like, my God, it breaks my heart. And we get to have this and beer and food and culture and all that stuff and fucking A. To Philadelphia.
Yeah.
To Philadelphia,
Absolutely.
indeed.
Philadelphia.
Very well said. That's a good note to wind everything down on. I appreciate that. Of course, I want to thank Audible again for their support. audibletrial.com/beerbusters. You know the drill. 30-day trial, download, listen to, keep your own audiobook.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/beerbusters.
You know the drill there, too.
Yeah.
Don't forget last
that.
call and everything. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
having us
thank
out
you.
here, guys. Yeah. And it's, like I said earlier, I don't mean to gush when I say it, but I've always been a fan of course, Local 44 since the first time I was here. And Lord knows for Steph, it's a place that she has to come to every time she's in the city, pretty much.
Here in Memphis.
Yep.
Those are my 2 stops.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters. And really, it was a lot of fun. Guys, thank you for having us out here and for drinking some of these awesome Belgian and Belgian-style beers with us. I mean, look forward to, hopefully we can record with you at your place, Ethan.
Absolutely.
By
Awesome.
the Pyramid of Barrels.
That'd be cool.
Pyramid of Barrels. I would at least want a picture for that.
I want to sit
That's
on
a
top of
selfie
it.
spot.
Yes,
Yeah,
of
it
course.
is. For
And
sure.
Jason, thank you for giving me the idea that I could buy a system that could actually make me make beers that taste good.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us.
And of course, thank you to you guys for putting everything on here at Local 44. Well, I am Dan Baker, joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
Just remember, no squids were harmed in the making of this episode, and we'll see you next time.
You can't shit on 2 toilets.